Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail for you here. I've been remiss in my mail duties, and I've been remiss in my mail opening for the last couple of days because I'm trying to catch up on my movies. I have a friend, those of you who've watched this channel for a while will already know the spiel. I have a friend who's worked in Hollywood forever, just forever. Years and years and years ago, she invited me to join her, actually, to join her on writing for a sitcom. She'd already sold me sight unseen to her bosses. They needed a couple of extra writers, and Hollywood is a place where money flows like water. In fact, it flows more freely than water in Hollywood. Hollywood is a desert. And it was demonstrated by the fact that the studio thought absolutely nothing of offering this writer with no credentials in the industry who they'd never heard of uh, an apartment, a set-up apartment, moving expenses, and a significant advance. It's just they thought nothing of it. It's peanuts to them. Uh, and this was all the way back in 1990, and I just decided against it. I decided now I'd have to move my dog, and I'd have to leave Boston, and probably never to return, and I'd have to get into this industry that, by all accounts, is a pit of vipers. So I eventually decided against it, and it was kind of bittersweet to watch the sitcom in question take off without me. The sitcom in question, it actually didn't have a very long life, but it was. I think I might be biased here, but it was a very good sitcom. It was called Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and it was. I don't think you can get it on any kind of streaming system or DVD set or anything, but if you ever do see it, you'll see what I mean. It's sharp and clever and very, very postmodern, very, very, break the fourth wall, that sort of thing. And that's probably the kind of humor I would have gone for. I would have, it's a teen high school sitcom, so I would probably have gone for a kind of mocking meta awareness. And apparently I would have been a very good fit with the staff because they all went for that. They went for exactly that. It didn't help. It didn't hurt any that they had a fantastic cast, just fantastic. Uh, but anyway, that was a long Grandpa Simpson digression right out of the starting gate. My point was that my friend sends me electronic screeners of movies, so I'm not talking about watching, The Expanse or anything like that. I'm talking about watching movies, and she sends me. She's very generous. She sends me a whole bunch of them. She always has. She says a very kind thing. She says when you dig into a movie, you often say things that I think my bosses would want to hear. She's constantly trying to get me into this industry where I would hate it. I would hate myself. Frida might have an Instagram account, but that would be the only good that would come out of it. And I've made use of this on this channel a couple of times. Those of you who are familiar with the sorry people who are familiar with the smallest minutia of this channel will remember times where I came fresh from a screener and told you, this movie's going to come out in a while, and it's tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous. I'm happy to predict that most of my predictions in that regard have been true. But the screeners that I've been watching this time around, you don't need to be Svengali, you don't need to be Karnak to know that these are going to be great movies. I've watched three just in the last 24 hours. So I haven't been feeling good. So I haven't been up to my usual antics. It takes a lot to craft prose, even crappy prose like mine. It takes a lot to do that. It takes more concentration to do that, and I just didn't feel like it. So I've been burning through these screeners so that I can at least report back to her. You don't feel like emailing her if I don't feel like emailing her if I don't have something to say about all this generosity. So I've watched just in the last day I've watched three movies, two of which are fairly big. One of which you might not have heard about. There's a historical movie called. Actually, I watched four. I've watched four movies. One was a historical movie called 1917, set on the battlefields of World War One. I thought it was astonishing, just astonishing. It boasts no good acting, but I don't think good acting was ever a part of what it was supposed to do. Instead, it's the cinematography that I think people will be talking about, because some of the shots in this thing are. Did you ever see, if you ever saw the movie adaptation of Ian McEwan's Atonement? One of the very rare instances where the movie adaptation, good as it is maybe the same quality level as the book, or maybe a little bit worse. But the movie is fairly standard stuff, except for one enormous panoramic take that will take your breath away, and that is the only thing you remember from the movie. And 1917 is like if you took that take and just ran it over 2 hours. It's just mind-boggling. And the other, maybe not on your radar movie that I want to put on your radar because you're gonna love it, you are gonna absolutely love it, is a thing called Aeronauts, which I forget the names of the stars. There are two young stars. I mean, there's a large supporting cast, but the thing is about pioneering balloon aviators. It's a historical movie about the people who went up in a balloon higher than anybody had ever gone before, who really tested the limits of what a gas-powered balloon could do. It's killing me that I can't remember the cast names. I think the male lead might be Eddie Redmayne, but it's hard to tell. He's a 10-pack-a-day tobacco addict, so he looks and sounds like he's 60. So I don't. It's difficult when somebody is killing themselves at that fast a pace that you lose track of their visual and social register, the vocal registers. But one way or another, they both do a fantastic job. Most of the drama of Aeronauts takes place in a very constricted space. And you already know, watching the movie, the worst thing that can happen to these people. One of them or both of them can fall out of the balloon. And yet, the whole thing is incredibly gripping, and it's beautifully, beautifully filmed. So 1917 and Aeronauts you might not have heard about, and if you haven't, you should, because they're really, really good. And then the other two screeners that I watched need no introduction. Although one of them is the furtheration of the kind of phenomenon that I was describing. The first Wonder Woman movie, I watched it without green screen effects. I got a very raw screener. I eventually got a screener with all of the effects, but I got a primitive cut, very early, and said on this channel, back when the couch was over there, I said on this channel, this is going to be one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. People are going to love this. And they did. I was completely right. And I have seen the screener for the Wonder Woman sequel set in the 1980s, and it's amazingly good. Just amazingly good. I mean, all of the people in it, the villain makes himself extra hissable. Chris Pine returns as Steve Trevor in a plot twist that I didn't particularly like, but it's always a good thing to see him on the screen. And then there's Gal Gadot. Oh my. Oh my. She is absolutely incredible. Just incredible. And I'm not only talking about the way she seems natural in connection with CGI and green screen special effects. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but a lot of actors in superhero movies don't seem comfortable with that aspect of their job. They just don't. And you can overlook it because your eyes are being bombarded. But if you pay attention to it, you see, okay, you don't seem really comfortable here. There's something about this that doesn't mesh. Your aesthetics and the aesthetics of the special effects don't seem to mesh. It's a useless thing to point that out in a world dominated by Marvel monstrosity movies, but nevertheless, Gal Gadot doesn't have that. If you watch the original Wonder Woman movie, she looks like she belongs in the role of Wonder Woman. She looks like she belongs in the fantastical adventures, the fantastical feats of Wonder Woman. Even in what in the first movie is a very awkward, prolonged dramatic beat where she's holding the tank above her head. That doesn't work. It would work if it were done different, shot different, or shorter, but it doesn't work when it's so long. And even that works. And in the sequel, everything works. She's just astonishing. You could stare at her without any special effects, and it would still be. She seems like a special effect on her own. And the filmmaker clearly knows that, because there are many scenes in the movie where you're just invited to step back and take a deep, appreciative breath. That's all. There are many scenes in the movie where Diana Prince is just walking or talking to people, and it's still just amazing. And then the last of the movie screeners that I saw was a little-known theatrical property named Star Wars. And I'm not invested in Star Wars the way either the legions of the good or the legions of the bad people are. The internet is split firmly into two camps: Star Wars fans and aggrieved Star Wars fans, and they will never see eye to eye on anything. And they are, in microcosm, a perfect reflection of culture wars: woke, intersectional versus troglodytic, extremely bearded, and maybe a little bit alt-right. The fandom in Star Wars has become so incredibly toxic that you wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. So it's hard to talk about the movies, but this movie, especially its final act, if you grew up with Star Wars, if Star Wars holds a special emotional place in your heart, oh boy, it's gonna make you bawl right there in the movie theater. It didn't make me bawl even in the little book room, but still, it will work on you. The filmmakers clearly want it to work on you. But anyway, so I've been burning away some of my screeners and haven't done as much reading, but we still have mail. We still have a little mail. So let's go through that and see what we have. This first one barely made it to me in one piece. So maybe it's from one of you. Publishers usually take a little more care than this. Let's see. Oh, no, it's not from one of you. This is a novel, an upcoming novel for 2020. That seemed really interesting to me. Yeah, February of 2020. This is by Andrew Krivak, and it's called The Bear. You'll be very proud of me that I did not wince at the title. And it's science fiction, if I remember correctly. Yes, a post-Anthropocene Earth. Okay, in an Edenic future. A girl and her father live close to the land in the shadow of a lone mountain. They possess a few remnants of civilization. Some books, everyone on BookTube is going to ask, which ones? A pane of glass, a set of flint and steel, a comb. The father teaches the girl how to fish and hunt, the secrets of the season and the stars. He's preparing her for an adulthood in harmony with nature, for they are the last of humankind. Okay, all right. But when the girl finds herself alone in an unknown landscape, it is a bear that will lead her back home through the vast wilderness that offers the greatest lessons of all, if only she can learn to listen. Okay, in biological terms, if they were the last of their species, he wouldn't be preparing her for adulthood, he'd be preparing her for supper. And it wouldn't matter anyway, because the natural world would kill them both immediately. The extinction is never gentle. Don't be fooled by the one or two extremely etoliated examples that you see in zoos with the last black rhino or whatever carefully and lovingly attended to the last minute by people who know that a species is dying with that animal. Most of it is horrible. But I have a feeling this is called a cautionary tale and a stunning tribute to the beauty of nature's dominion. But in addition to all that, I have a feeling this is going to be one of those books where the author is really not going to like having this described as science fiction. It's going to be one of those hoity-toity Margaret Atwood genre dodges. But it might be good, and we shall see. The author wrote 2 previous novels, and one of which was a National Book Award finalist. And he lives with his wife and 3 children in Somerville, Massachusetts. Good Lord. He's close enough to make his way over here. Anyway, let's continue. Let's see what this next one is. Okay, this next one is from Avid Readers Press. We've seen them before on this channel. This is from March. This is by Dan Heath, and it's called Upstream: The Quest to Solve Problems Before They Happen. So often in life we get stuck in a cycle of response. Tell me about it. You try being married and divorced to Deb so many times. You'll know all about cycles of responses. We put out fires, we deal with emergencies, we stay downstream, handling one problem after another, but we never make our way upstream to fix the systems that cause the problems. Cops chase robbers, doctors treat patients with chronic illnesses, and call center reps address customer complaints. But many crimes, chronic illnesses, and customer complaints are preventable. So why do our efforts skew so heavily toward reaction rather than prevention? I'm assuming that question is rhetorical, but I'd like to answer it. It's because reaction is something individuals can do. And prevention is something systems can do, and systems have far more ingrained inertia than individuals do. An individual cannot fix a broken health system, but an individual can fix a broken person if they have correct training. So that's the answer to the question. But we have a whole book to read, so let's not wrap things up too quickly. Okay, so the author is a senior fellow at Duke University's Case Center, which focuses on social justice entrepreneurship. and the author of 3 New York Times best-selling books with over 1 million copies sold, translated into 30 languages. How wonderful. Good Lord. I'm blocking his name the whole time. I'd be lucky to kiss his boots. All right, well, this comes out in March, and we will see. We will see. The explanation that I said is not open to argument. That is the reason why we focus so much on responses instead of systemic solutions, because we can. I can't make a serially horrible author lose his book contract, but I can chirp about his serial author books. I have at least that ability. But we'll see what the author has to say. It sounds like he has a vast amount of experience. So let's see. Oh, God. Oh. See, she's never happy. She's never happy with the piece she pulls off. She's such a child. All right, what is this next one? Oh, wow. Okay, didn't know this was coming. This is from, excuse me, this is from Scott Spencer. And it comes out, wow, I didn't know, it comes out in June. It's a long time from now. This is An Ocean Without a Shore. What a lovely cover. Look at that. Look at that little dab of sunlight right there. Very nice. I suppose if I'm going to praise it, I should say who it is. Who does the cover illustration? Probably the advanced copy won't tell me that, whereas the finished copy might. It tells me, the advanced copy just tells me who designed the book. I want to know who did the cover painting, but I can wait. I'll tell you about it when I get the finished copy. No one writes of longing like Scott Spencer. You're going to recognize one of his books. You're not going to know that it was a book, but you're going to recognize the title. In mutedness and unrequited love, An Ocean Without a Shore falls neatly on the shelf alongside Wuthering Heights and The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. But where Scott Spencer excels is at revealing the underlying drama and truth of daily life. Since college, Kip has been obsessed with Thaddeus, a charming, people-pleasing writer. Thaddeus, in turn, loves only 2 things, his wife Grace and their home, and both the relationship and the house are crumbling. As Kip struggles to discover romantic love that is not shared, he realizes how longing without destination goes on and on. That's kind of well put. I wonder if the author wrote this. He is fully aware he is in a prison of his own building, making do with the confines of his closet, clinging to the crumbs Thaddeus throws him. Then, when Thaddeus taps Kip for a sizable cash infusion, he sets them all on a life-changing course. Wow. Okay. Well, that sounds great. And this is by the author of a novel called Endless Love. That, yes, was made into now we would call it, in the 21st century, we would call it a cringeworthy Brooke Shields movie that was also shares the distinction of being Tom Cruise's cinematic debut. But the book is wonderful. The novel is wonderful. I've spent the last 40 years, or how long it's been since Endless Love came out, with that incredibly earwormy, syrupy theme song by, what's her name? I've almost forgot her name, but I've spent all the time since then telling people who only know the movie that the novel is worth their time. The novel is very, very good. So I'm going to have to do that all over again when this comes out. Okay, great. Okay, this author lives in upstate New York. He has taught at Columbia University, at the Iowa Writers Workshop, at Williams College, the University of Virginia, and the Eastern Correctional Facility as part of the Bard Prison Initiative. And I wonder if he lives in upstate New York. I wonder if he's taught at Ossining, which is not just Cheever country. It's also the home of a big prison. Well, great. Fantastic. Okay. It sounds like just the kind of thing he likes to write. He likes to set up in his books unsolvable problems and then do his best to solve them, or at least explore them. And I didn't realize what a trick that was and how daring it was until I tried it myself. I wrote a novel called The Marshness of Man, and about a 50-something widow in the Regency period who is part of the landed nobility, and I had her life all planned out. I had her relatives all known to me, and then I decided, okay, what would happen if she fell erotically in love with a man 30 years her junior who was not of her social class? Is there any way for me to get them to happiness without betraying the rules of the game without altering. I cannot change the laws of physics without doing that. It's an amazing thing when you're an author to set when you're writing a story like that. It's an amazing thing to set yourself that goal and then intentionally try to make it impossible and see if you can do it anyway. See if you can wriggle out of it anyway. And Scott Spencer is really good at that, whether he succeeds or fails, whether he gives his authors happiness in the end or not. He's really good at just taking nothing for granted and digging into his fiction. I cannot recommend him highly enough, and yet every time I recommend him, what do I have to do? Oh, did he write Endless Love? Oh, that movie with the theme song? Anyway, let's finish up our mail haul for today. Oh my. Okay, did not see this coming either. Wow, alright. Okay, what have we got here? So this comes out in May, and it's by acclaimed writer and Harvard lecturer Maggie Doherty, and it's the timely, never-before-told story of the Radcliffe Institute for Independent Study. It's called The Equivalents by Maggie Doherty. That is going to be the cover. You'll recognize one of those people. I don't recognize the crowd. In 1960, at the height of the era that expected women to focus solely on raising families, Radcliffe College announced the creation of an unprecedented new fellowship. The Institute's founder, Mary Ingram Bunting, saw too many accomplished female undergraduates giving up their dreams of becoming scholars or artists because they couldn't imagine a way to pursue careers while also managing a family and keeping house. Proposing to get these intellectually displaced women back on track, the Institute offered full support, including money and office space, to women with a PhD or the equivalent in artistic success. The opportunity it afforded its inaugural group of 24 educated, talented, passionate women, most of whom were married with children or who had few outlets for their intellectual ambition, was nothing short of life-changing. Amazing that this story has never been told in a popular history. I'm going to have to check on that, but this is making me smile. Doherty introduces us to 5 brilliant friends, the poets Anne Sexton and Maxine Kumin, painter Barbara Swan, sculptor Mariana Pineda, and writer Tilly Olson, who came together at the Institute and would go on to make history. Drawing on their notebooks, letters, lecture recordings, journals, and finished work, Doherty weaves these women's own voices a moving narrative of friendship, ambition, activism, and art. Incredible. Incredible. I'm going to have to check to see, but I don't remember off the top of my head anyone writing about this before. Much less doing it in this, this is a winning formula, taking the marquee names and doing it that way and showing you the whole program through them. Oh, okay, all right. This was not a bad mail haul, not at all. So we have The Equivalents, putting a lot of weight on the PhDs or the artistic equivalents. That's very good. That's very smart. So The Equivalents. Then we have An Ocean Without a Shore, about a novel that looks like it's going to explore in great and unflinching detail unrequited love. Then Upstream, how to solve problems before they happen. And finally, The Bear, post-anthropocentric novel about a father and a daughter, and any echoes of Cormac McCarthy's The Road will, I'm sure, be welcomed by the publisher. We shall see. We shall see. I will give it a try. All 2020. So nothing on my immediate radar. But I am still going to convert my immediate radar away from movies. I've watched enough movies for 1 week. Thank you very much. It's time to get back to reading. But anyway, I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.